I don't know about you guys, but I know I'm missing travel. I think probably for a lot of people, people are missing travel, but they're nervous about travel. What does that look like moving forward? Getting on a plane, getting on a resort and an all-inclusive resort to places where people are congregated and together. And then I think the biggest fear for a lot of people are cruises. And what does that look like? Getting back to cruise. I've done many cruises over the years with family, and it's been a beautiful experience. And I think, we're with the perfect person today to talk a little bit about what is cruising look like moving forward. What are the rules around cruising? The benefits to actually getting back to it. And Owen is, here to share with us sort of, what it is, what does it look like cruising moving forward? And for people that are maybe nervous, that have always cruised and are not really sure, is cruising really what they want to do again? Mm-hmm. And maybe could you just put some minds at ease for us?
Yes, well, for sure. It's been a tough go for all of us. We all want to travel. We all usually need to take a flight to travel to places. But, with the COVID pandemic, one of the first places that took a hit, on the media and what we saw every day was images of people being stuck on a select number of ships. What I can say is the cruise lines took a voluntary suspension. They decided, listen, we don't want to be on the media anymore. We don't want to be spreading the virus. We don't want to have any more issues. So they started the global suspension on March 12th in 2020, and they maintained it. Ships have started to sail again. They've started sailing. Royal Caribbean had ships sailing in the Canaries and in Asia through the entire pandemic since last summer, with minimal cases. I think under 54 cases out of 200,000 travelers of COVID. We don't see people stuck on ships anymore. Why? The cruise lines in the States are regulated and they report to the CDC. Hospitals and cruise ships report to the CDC. The CDC is very specific on the rules of what cruise lines can do. There is no more being stuck on the ships, from ensuring that guests are vaccinated, ensuring that if there's a place that they're leaving where there's some guests that may not be vaccinated, how the separation goes, reduce capacity. A lot of ships started at 20%, 30%, 50%. Ships just started sailing out of the UK. Celebrity Cruises is in the UK, and out of Athens in the Greeks. Silver Seas is starting. Oceania is starting. They have protocols. No one wants to be that ship or that resort or that airline with an outbreak, but we haven't been seeing it in the last 2 months because they've been able to control it. Precautions, the way they make the beds and do the service, the check-in in. You have to be tested when you board. So everyone is getting an antigen and PCR test at boarding. They can no longer board if they test positive. The cruise lines are giving you money back and helping you get home. But we've had some clients travel. I've known many colleagues that have traveled. It has been a different experience, but it's also been a safe experience. It's really important to know, just like at home when we go shopping at the grocery store or going out to a restaurant, the experience is different right now. The same is going to be for the next while with travel. You have to be comfortable with your own choice to travel, but that's why it's so important to come to someone like us or another Expedia Cruises office or a travel agency in your local area to walk through those concerns and go through it, because there is a list, very long list of precautions that cruise lines and airlines are taking.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that amazing? Well, and I think that's probably the important piece, to be able to have, a business like yours, or, to have the professionals that actually have the information. As a consumer, or just knowing that travel is something that I would like back in my life or my family's life, for me it feels like a very distant future. Like it's hard to sort of really understand. But I think the important thing to also know is that we can contact someone like you or your staff to be able to say, we're really considering a cruise. We would like to include the family, whatever that might look like, and how do we go about it? And I loved the fact that you actually have all this information. And it's on all of the cruises, right, that you're understanding. So the protocol remains the same. The other piece that I think is very interesting is that you said there's regulation involved. I didn't know that, and I don't think a lot of consumers would actually know that information as well. So what would you say to families that are thinking about, we're obviously in summer now, which is amazing, but entering into the winter, a lot of families are starting to really think about, okay, is this winter going to be the time that we can finally get back to travel? So what would you say to the families that are maybe contemplating travel for this winter coming?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a few different things to contemplate and look at. Did you travel pre-pandemic? How much did you travel? Where did you travel? Where did you feel comfortable? Were you a family that always went to the Mayan Riviera every Christmas and New Year's or March break? Then that's where I would suggest you start. I wouldn't say that's as a family to say, okay, great, you've done the Mayan Riviera 10 times. Let's post-pandemic, let's send you to Machu Picchu and the Galapagos. That isn't really where I would say, because it's out of the comfort zone and it's a little bit different. Yes, bucket list trips are important, but maybe for the first trip, you go to what you know. I know, I'm a father, I have a child. Our trip for New Year's is on a cruise line that we know, we understand, and we feel comfortable and safe on, and know that at the end, they're gonna provide us, included, the PCR test so we can enter Canada back. It's really important that you feel comfortable where you're going. There's so many options to travel, and people are booking. My biggest thing I would say to people is don't be scared until you've actually had the conversation. Don't put off your plans and then think I'll deal with them later, unless you have a pocketbook that's endless, because the flight schedules are limited. There's less flights. So if there was 3 flights every day to Cancun on Air Canada, there's now just 1. And because of that, the pricing is going up, and that makes it a lot more difficult for those families that want to get away and have that experience out of reach. And so we're finding a lot of people now booking. I would say the holidays is pretty strong for families, and the cruise lines are pretty strong with bookings. And so I would never say don't plan the trip. I would just say plan early, use a professional, have normal expectations, and stay with what you know for your first trip post-COVID.
So Owen is going to give us some tips on cruises, how to keep us safe, what's happening on cruises. So if you are considering that cruise, Owen's got all the tips. So run us through some maybe top 5 or whatever comes to mind for you. That'd be excellent.
Perfect. Okay, so the first thing is no one is being stuck on ships anymore. If you test positive on the cruise lines, many cruise lines have a policy where they help you with the coverage of the medical if needed. Most of them, if they don't, they also help you get home and the next cruise continues. No one is being stuck on ships anymore. 2, there's mandatory testing at the piers. All guests are given a COVID test pre-boarding at the pier. Once you're cleared, there's an app, it says you're cleared, you can then board the ship. Once on board, the buffets, a lot of cruise lines had already started that. They already had precautions or procedures in place when there was an outbreak of a norovirus or some type of illness, where the buffets are served. So no one can go and touch the food and take your own thing. It's either already pre-portioned in a glass or a cup, or the servers are serving you your eggs Benedict or whatever you're having. Another tip is bedding. When they're changing the rooms over, they are not shaking the sheets as per the CDC list of requirements. They have to roll out the sheets to minimize exposure, change gloves in between each room to redo the room. Everyone must vacate the ship between cruises. So if you're staying on back-to-back, you have to vacate for 8 hours while they deep clean the ship. There's social distancing in the theaters. The theaters, you cannot sit so close to one another. They're putting on 2 shows. They're also distinguishing between, right now, vaccinated. A lot of cruise lines are doing 95% of the guests are vaccinated, 5% are not, because they can't mandate it. But in that 5% is health reasons or children. But if they're not vaccinated and they're not under 12, they need to have a separate wristband, and they're designated separately in dining rooms and shows. Children are tested every day if they're under 12 with the quick saliva antigen test, just to make sure that they don't have anything. And all of that's included. These are just some of the things. There's a list of over, I think, 200 CDC regulations and requirements that the cruise lines must follow while operating. They're also at reduced capacity. So if you ever want to go on a great ship and you're worried about it being a little crowded, now's the time in the next year to book that, because they will not get 100% capacity.